Hey everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of Ask Kate, where Kate's back from a nice holiday that she had, feeling refreshed, getting lots of sunshine and eating lots of yummy pro-metabolic food and sugar. And
And sugar.
and sugar and sugar. And, I was just saying to Kate that, I just cop so much grief over my posts on Facebook around sugar and how bad sugar is, and sugar causes diabetes. So I wanted to just talk to Kate today and discuss sugar. What is sugar? Where did this I guess fear of sugar initially come from? And just, I think, break down some of the misconceptions around sugar and how you should be and can include it in your diet. So yeah, Kate, where should we even start? We were talking about that Robert Lustig, that study that he did with the rats and I think that was probably a big one.
He was all on fructose. So he went to the whole thing that basically fructose was causing all of these issues. And so basic Lustig is, he did the bitter truth or bittersweet truth, and basically talks really horribly about fructose causing fatty liver and cancer and everything. And you basically, when you did look at his research, first of all, it was primarily on rats, and rat studies are good information, as we know, but they cannot translate into what it happens into a human. It just can't do it, but it basically does give us some sort of idea of how the metabolic processes of these foods work. However, fructose in a rat works very differently than fructose in a human. Rats will convert about 50% of that into fat, whereas humans might convert under 2%. And so it's a different process. Anyways, from that conclusion, he created this, as we know, of YouTube that went viral. And I think that could have started the really hatred and, thought process of how sugar is so horribly bad for us. And I think, again, like most things, right, we take everything out of context. And if a lot is really bad for us, then that means zero should be the best for us. And that is just not true at all when it comes to foods, especially, again, I'm not ever telling anybody they need to consume pounds of white table sugar. Again, it can be used as a energy food. I mean, it's nutritionally low. And so for that is one reason we don't really say consume tons of it unless you really, really need it for energy. But, as far as sugar as a food that is good for us, especially foods that contain natural sugars like fruits and roots and milk and honey, they're our best source of energy. They always will be. That's how the body runs best physiologically. If you study human physiology, that's how it runs. We can change it. Our body is super awesome and cool, and we can use other resources to fuel ourselves. But sugar, glucose is always our best resource. And so when we get into this thought process that sugar is horribly bad for us and it's going to kill us, and we just say, I'm going to completely not consume it now and avoid all things with it, we are doing a great disservice to our body, our physiology, our metabolism, and how our health is going to be.
And
that was a lot.
Yeah. you were probably back when, I was under the impression that, I couldn't eat sugar, was bad, it was going to poison me, and I didn't understand basic physiology. And so I wouldn't eat fruit, I wouldn't eat dairy, anything that had any sort of sugar in it. I cut it out completely from my diet. And it's interesting because, white sugar is from a plant. It's just refined. It's sucrose, it's glucose and fructose. It gets all broken down in the body in the same thing. The only difference is it just doesn't have any nutrients in it. So, people go, look, there's probably, if you were said from today, I'm not going to eat any white sugar, that's probably not going to be a big issue as long as you drink fruit and, eat fruit, drink juice, dairy, like the things that you talked about. But then I think it's people go so far and they go, I'm not going to eat fruit, I'm not going to drink juice, I'm not going to eat any dairy because it's got sugar in it, which is just crazy because you're missing out on all those beautiful nutrients too that those foods contain. And like you said, the energy and the sugar. And, now that I include those things in my diet, I feel so much better. And then also, having some white sugar in a nutrient-rich diet free from digestive inhibitors is fine. People get so wired up about, you're having a sugar in your coffee, or you're having, you make these sweet condensed milk balls, but it's I have 2 in the afternoon, and then the rest of my diet is fruit and honey and all the things that you talked about.
Yeah, I mean, and the thing is that you have to take every person into consideration, because I know you experience this as well. As I certainly have people that say I'm a sugar addict. If I have sugar, then I just eat all of it and I gain weight, and this is what happens to me. So I have to avoid it. And as we both said, people feel better when they avoid all sugar foods, right? So what we have learned, and I know what we've discussed, every conversation I've had with someone that's told me that, they are usually avoiding sugar-filled foods like cakes and candies and cookies and all of these high satiating foods that are easily to overconsume. They're usually going to dysregulate your blood sugar because they're a high amount of sugar and fat, and usually the fat in them is like vegetable oil or something that's also horribly bad for them, and then there's a ton of flour. So that food is going to give you all sorts of dysregulation, and it tastes good, so it's really easy to overconsume it, and you're getting, very little nutritional value with that kind of food, if you're eating it as the main kind of foods that you're getting sugar sources from. So yes, if you avoid all those foods, because you're going to be avoiding vegetable oil and flour, and then your blood sugar might regulate better, you're going to feel better. But don't take it to this whole nother level where you're going to avoid all foods that contain sugar, because if one sugar is bad, they're all bad. And, again, we have to get back and understand how our physiology works, that we are meant to utilize sugars as energy. And so, what we've done, though, in the food manufacturing industry is created tons and tons of sweet foods with lots of good fats and everything else. And yeah, we overeat them. We are over-consuming these types of foods, and that's what's causing the problem. And then the researchers say, we did this, study, we looked at all these people, they're consuming whatever pounds of sugar and so forth, and fat and all these other things, and just overeating overall, and they're gaining weight. So this is why it's bad for you and we should avoid it, without putting it into context. And so, everything has context to it. And so, I know me and you, when we're telling people, when we say things like, no, these need to be primarily the main part of your diet. And if you understand that this is what your body needs, your sugar addiction will go away without going to rehab.
Yeah. So it's like, think about it. Your body's not going to, like, people go, it's poison. Why would your body crave something that was poison? It's like you only crave that crappy that's going to kill you. Like you once you fill your diet with enough carbs and sugar, like, I don't binge eat anymore. Ever.
Right. And I think that's the thing, because, anyone that has been addicted to drugs, we all know that there is a addiction and our body craves that, right? So that would be considered a bad addiction. And, so, however, when you have more drugs, you crave more drugs. That's just how it works. When you have more sugars, provided that they're giving you nutrition and they're balanced properly with things like fats and proteins, what happens is you don't crave more. You feel satiated, and as long as you're consuming enough through the day, instead of wanting constantly, mostly what I find is I don't have that binge anymore, or I don't feel this craving at night to have a piece of cake. It's like I don't have to use willpower anymore to not consume these foods, because I just don't crave it. And that's what happens, right? So that's what it's saying. This isn't like an addiction, because if it was, the more you had to have it, the more you crave it, and again, that can happen if you're eating the wrong types. But again, and I know that you've experienced this, when you start giving yourself the fruits, the juice, and balancing it, that all goes away, and you'll find that you're consuming way more sugar foods like fruits and stuff. And then when you want a piece of cake, you eat, your piece, and that's it. You're done, because that body is now used to utilizing lots of sugar sources as energy. And so when you give even something like cake, it doesn't get all out of balance, and you can stay within your parameters of eating, and there's never those times that you're going to be binging or overeating or any of that stuff starts happening.
Yeah. And I think too, it's like, like I'll make different things, like the white chocolate fudge, with condensed milk and whatever, and good quality chocolate, and the condensed milk fruit balls. And it's like having some of those yummy things in your diet. Like, you never feel like, it's not as like you eat them at every meal. You might have them at one meal with a cup of coffee or something. And I always think to people like, oh, how do you stop? I'm like, well, because I just eat all this nice food that I like all the time, and I eat till I feel satisfied, because I know that this is not the last time that I'm ever going to eat this food. And then I'll get to the next meal and think, oh, I really feel like some potato with salt and butter and fish and juice or whatever. It's not like I think, oh, gee, I want to eat fudge. at every fucking meal. You know, it's like, it's people, oh, it's just, it's like, have balance, have a balance.
It is. Yeah. But I mean, I totally resonate with that because I was how I was. I'm sure it's probably how you were when I avoided it so much. I mean, especially if I ever dieted down for like photos or whatever I was trying to achieve. And I mean, when that photo shoot was done, I would eat, I mean, the amount of carbohydrates I had consumed because I deprived myself so long, my body was just ravenous, you know, and I would eat everything. I mean, peanut butter jelly sandwiches and bars and cake and whatever I could get a hold of. And I couldn't stop. And honestly, you know, I would physically feel full, but my blood sugar was so out of whack, you know, because my body didn't even know how to metabolize all this. So when I was probably doing it, it was just probably getting through my system. I was spiking insulin. I couldn't utilize it. It was, you know, I was probably putting on weight real fast as well because my body wasn't used to consuming it. And I just got into that, you know, as many people have and many fitness people have, is that hamster wheel where you're just avoiding, over-consuming, way over-consuming, put on weight, avoiding, and then repeating that cycle continually, where that cycle never will end and it never works long-term, ever. And until you give your system exactly what it needs, like in the right dosages through the day, then you will find happiness. That's where nirvana is in the sugar world. And then you can have white sugar, and then you can have those things in your coffee and all those things, you know, I mean, those are totally fine. Absolutely.
I think too, you got to remember, like, because I came from a pretty bad binge eating background. So even when I changed over, it still took me time to get to the space where I am now. Like I can actually, you know, sit here now and say that I never feel like binge eating and I have, you know, food doesn't control me anymore and I eat, but I still eat mindfully, you know, like I'll track my food during the week because I know if I eat this much, I'll sleep really well. And then on the weekends, I'll just eat more mindfully, but I'm still mindful because it's like, I just sort of eat it and eat times. Because look, I don't think there's anything wrong with this, but I'll look good. Like I want to look good, but I don't want to look good at the expense of being obsessed with food and starving myself. And I really actually feel like I've found a balance now where I can train 3 days a week. I can eat over 2,000 calories a day and not be starving and sleep well. And, you know, still like I could probably eat more and go and eat more pizza on the weekend, but I'm like, do I really need it? No, I just have to, you know, it's getting your head into that mentality where you're like, okay, eat till I'm satisfied and eat what I enjoy and then stop, you know, because I think it's trying to get out of that headspace of going, I'm restricting and then I can never have this again. Like, and I think it takes time to get out of that. Like, especially if you've come from a really bad binge eating background.
100%. And I think the mental aspect is important, but until you can physically balance your blood sugar and get your body used to utilizing sugar, you can mentally have that. Because I've seen it with people and their different programs that actually avoid sugar, but they're like, okay, I'm going to tell myself that I'm fine and I'm going to use this. And do I really need that? But yet they're avoiding carbohydrates. So it becomes this mental struggle for them, right? And so they really have to be on their game all their time with thinking about that. And that takes an enormous amount of energy and enormous amount of carbohydrates. So they're just kind of working against themselves with that kind of thought process without supporting it with the foundation of consuming sugars. But I agree. It does take some time. And, you know, my mental wiring in my brain was, you know, that it was so bad for me. Even when I was balancing, I was fighting with it. Just like, you know, is this okay? Should I be doing this? I hadn't done this in so long, you know, and because it took a while, but, you know, and so anyone that comes to me, I'm like, I get it. I mean, I've been there, I've done it. And to try to just will yourself into eating good doesn't work. And, you know, and I taught people that for so long, that just willpower and grind it out and you can do it and, you know, go on a walk and drink some water, you know, or just go to bed if you're hungry. Right. I mean, craziness. And, but that's what we thought. And that's what we knew to do. But this is just a better approach. And it's totally easy. And it works with your physiology, not against it. And it's not immediate. It doesn't just shift, especially if you're coming from a background where you've been avoiding carbohydrates for a long time. It takes a little bit more time, you know, and so your body has to
increase slowly. I think, you know, see a lot of people come into our and you know, like they'll do our free program. They're like, I've been eating 1,200 calories. I'm like, increase it gradually. Let your body guide you. Start there, change the foods over, eat, and then as you get more hungry, just increase it by 100, 150. Let your body, let your hunger guide you. And it will. Like every time, like you see these women and they're eating 1,500 calories, they're like, wow, I've been eating this food for like a week and I'm waking up and I'm hungry. Like I'm starting to recognize what hunger feels like again. So, I think, and if you don't want to stack the weight on too, because like, it's like if you probably do just need to increase your calories, but it's like, just do it slowly. Let your body catch up.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, all of those has to happen. And, and the thing is your mind does have to get involved because especially with women, we tend to make it harder for ourselves and play against it. We have this fear that what we're doing is going to cause weight gain and all these other things. And then that just creates more stress, and I'm like, hey, you're making it harder on yourself. So you got to give yourself at least, 90, maybe 180 days where you just kind of take all the pressure off yourself. Just eat the foods, do it slow, log it, take your temperature and pulse, pay attention to your sleeping, your energy, how you're feeling, all of those things without really jumping on the scale that much. I know people like to do it. It can get in their way a lot of the time, especially if you're in the fitness profession. I know I did that as well. I mean, because we can be a little neurotic, we have a lot of our identity wrapped around that, but it doesn't really help you.
Do you know what, actually, when this is sort of going off topic, but in our program, like we're big in tracking and measuring in the initial stages, like you say, so we can collect data and make decisions and go, okay, well, look, you ate this food and this is improving things and blah, blah, blah. And what Craig's implemented, and initially I was like, I don't like this because I don't like the thought of weighing, because his thing is weigh every day and then take the average at the end of the week. And a lot of women are like, oh, I can't do that. It's such a head fuck. But what we've actually found is it's had the reverse effect, because they jump on the scales every day and Craig's like, it's just a number. It can change daily. All we're doing it is to collect data at the end of the week so that we can look at you and go, okay, do we need to increase this or decrease this, or what effect did this have? Or maybe it's around your cycle, blah, blah, blah. And a lot of the women have come back and gone, oh, I've just noticed these trends like this, this, and this, and now I don't feel anything about that number. It's actually just a number and I'm like, because I was like, oh yeah, that, being the same, like jumping on the scales. Whereas now I jump on the scales and I'm like, sometimes I'll just jump on out of interest because I actually don't want my weight to go down because I like to have muscle. So I'm like, I don't want it to go down. But it's interesting, like all these women are going, yeah, I just don't have any emotion now about the scales because I know it's just data. And which is really I found fascinating.
And actually that's a really good point because it is just data, and as long as you don't have this emotional attachment to it. And I can see how if you do it on a daily basis and you actually can see the fluctuation through the day, because honestly it does fluctuate. You can in the morning and at night, you're gonna have two different numbers, so it is just data for sure. So, ultimately it's like kind of find what works with you in that. I mean, if that works and that helps you, 100% do it. If it works for you to not do that at all and to not have an attachment at all to it, then do that. Either way, if you find it's triggering the crap out of you, don't do it. Probably don't do it. Right.
I think, Well, I think, we talk about this all the time. It's about playing the long game, and you need to go, I'm not focusing, that's just a number. It doesn't mean anything right now. It's just to collect data to make decisions, because I'm looking at this as a 12-month process. So like we initially say to clients, first 12 weeks is just about improving the subjective and objective measures of metabolism. Don't even think about losing weight. Don't even think about losing centimeters. If it happens, bonus. But we need to repair. We need to build up your resting metabolic rate. You need to build muscle. It's like, Craig talks about this a lot. He's like, well, like if you're eating 1,500, say we get you up to 1,700, but you're still not strong, you've got no muscle. If we stole those calories back now, you've just undone all the hard work. You need to keep building that base, build the base, build the base, build the base. And that takes time. And you can't rush that. It's going to take you 12 months probably for most women to get to their goal. Maybe even 18 months. Sometimes longer. But I think once you take, I notice a lot of women in our page, they'll post and go, I finally, now that I've accepted that this is the long game and I've taken that pressure off myself and I'm focusing on the process rather than the outcome, they just, all of a sudden it starts to become so much easier instead of going, I have to fucking lose weight. I have to lose weight, sorry, we've deviated off the sugar. I was actually going to ask this because I know that you've got to go and I need to ask you this before you go, but we get a lot of comments too, sugar feeds cancer.
I mean, we could do a whole thing on that.
And do you think we should save that for another time, or can you quickly have some input before you?
Yeah. So yes, it does. But sugar feeds every cell of your body. And if you deprive your body of sugar, cancer doesn't care. It will consume your muscle tissue. It consumes ketones. It consumes fat tissue. It will convert your muscle into sugar. It's going to find it. So it makes zero sense to avoid sugar if you have cancer, because all you're going to do is lower your metabolism even lower, so your immune system cannot work at all, and kill yourself faster. And because again, you know, that research came from somebody that basically put cancer in a petri dish. They removed the sugar and the cancer went away. And they're like, wow, look, sugar feeds cancer. And if you just avoid sugar, the cancer will go away. Well, the body doesn't work that way. You know, if you avoid sugar out of a human body, it doesn't just die off. We utilize other resources as energy. And a primary resource is your muscle tissue, your thymus gland, your connective tissue. If you don't provide your body with enough usable energy, that's what it's going to break down to feed the system. You know, you see anyone that's passing and dying of cancer, they are emaciated. They are nothing left. Everything's being consumed by the disease. So, you know, cancer doesn't care what it is, it will consume it. So that really doesn't, that's the quick kind of blip of it. So, you know, it is a wrong philosophy. Yes, avoiding crappy foods and fast foods and, you know, like the ones that we discussed in the beginning would be beneficial to you, and eating more sugars with a lot of nutrition in it would be far more beneficial to you. But, you know, that also becomes down to the individualization of the person, what they're doing. You know, a lot of people have cancer, have horrible gut issues, you know, so there's so many other things you have to unwind within them to really address what they can eat, and then that will support them without causing more distress.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I know you're probably just running out of time. Thanks so much. You know, and I hope for the viewers, we've sort of addressed some of those misconceptions around sugar. And, you know, if you've been eating low sugar, low carbs, start slowly, you know, introduce fruits, root vegetables, juice, fresh juice, build up slowly, listen to your body, you know, and yeah, you'll just feel so much better. Hey.
Yeah. And if you have questions, I mean, you know, obviously my Facebook page has tons of blips of information. I know yours does.
Get Kate's book. It's really good. How to Heal Your Metabolism.
That is a great book.
You can buy it off our website.
You can buy it, yeah.
If you're in Australia.
One of the few places you can buy it in Australia. So that's where you need to get it. But I mean, do your research before you do any of the other crazy, you know, ketogenic or low carb diets. Just really know how your body functions before you address any of these.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, thanks so much, Kate. And I shall see you next week.
You got it. Always a pleasure, Kitty.
Bye. Bye.